Welcome to the Leslie Hawkins podcast. Each week, my guest and I discuss one pivotal moment in their life, what they learned from it, and their words of wisdom. Sometimes, life doesn't whisper that something needs to change. It stops you cold. Our guest was returning from a routine business trip when everything unraveled. What started as feeling unwell quickly became a hospital visit, a scary diagnosis, and emergency surgery. 3 weeks in the ICU, 3 months of recovery at home. During that stillness, everything came into focus. What matters and what doesn't. This episode is about the kind of wake-up call that no one asks for, but how choosing to live by your values can become a compass for every decision that follows. Welcome to another episode of the Leslie Hawkins podcast. I am so grateful that you're here. Please welcome Jordie Dunlop, who is our guest for today. So Jordie is a sales and operations expert. He's spent nearly 20 years at Adidas, which is where we met. I would say Jordie, to me, he's what I would call a culture carrier. He truly embodies everything about the brand and the business, and he lives and breathes exactly what you would want in an exemplary associate and leader. Him and I work together, yes, on the business side, but also most recently on the fun things that we did at Adidas, including a field day, which was basically an excuse for a group of adults to spend a day out on the fields, having some fun like you used to do in elementary school. Yes, we did 3-legged race and all of that. And Jordie was not only the brains behind the operation, but he was the one that organized everything. If you want to see how to build not only an event, but an Excel spreadsheet that puts most people to shame, Jordie's your guy. It was amazing. He pulled off the event with so much fun, so much passion, but organized with like military precision. It was amazing. And it's what people talked about every year. When's the field day? So Jordie, I am so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that we met, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Leslie.
It's awesome. So this podcast is all built on one question, which is, what is one pivotal moment in your life? And the reason that I thought of that one question is, one, it's very universal. Everybody's got multiple pivotal moments generally in their life. But also, when you're going through a pivot, it can feel quite isolating. Like, I'm the only person that's gone through this. Yeah. And then when you start talking about it, then you realize, oh, actually, there's a huge community of people. There's a lot of people that have gone through this. And so I wanted to use this platform to give people opportunities to tell their story so that others in the audience can not only learn from it, but can also, if they experience a similar pivot, can recognize that they're not alone on this journey.
Love it.
Yes. So let me ask you, what is that one pivotal moment in your life?
It's funny because when we were exchanging emails back and forth about an entirely different topic,
yes,
and then you emailed a quick one-liner, hey, would you be interested? And do you have a pivotal moment? I actually didn't realize how quick it would come. I emailed immediately back saying, I absolutely do and would love to. Mm-hmm. But I never thought about it as a pivotal moment, if I'm being honest. But I did have a pivotal moment, and I apologize in advance if I get emotional because pivotal moments are emotional.
Yes, they are.
But mine was early on, which in retrospect was fantastic, would not change it. And I'm glad it happened early in my career, early-ish in my life, in my professional and personal life, because it allowed me to make change and truly pivot in the decisions I was making from an early on stage that had effects in my professional and personal life for the last 20 years. So my pivotal moment was in 2008, and my wife will be listening to this, and she will tell me that I had my dates wrong when we first met, and I get all the details wrong because I probably blocked it from my memory, and I also have a terrible memory. But my story was pretty traumatic, so I think the subconscious has blurred some of the details. But my wife corrected me, make sure it's 2008. It wasn't 2016. That was your other one, 2008. So it was 2008. I was 3 years. I started with Addy in October of 2005. So I was
Okay.
pretty early in my career. I was working in merchandising with the infamous Joe Westlake, one of
Yes.
the greatest leaders that I've ever had, and the gentleman that hired me, still great friends today. And we were traveling, as we did, to Portland on seasonal range planning and marketing planning meetings. And I was traveling with the merchandising team at that time. And if you've ever been to Portland, I know you have, there's a strip mall, IKEA power center just off the tarmac from the Portland airport. And it was always a place that we stopped on the way to the airport if we had time, because there was some shopping and you could get some great American deals.
Yes.
So the team that I was traveling with wanted to do some shopping. I'm not a shopper. So I chose instead to go and eat some sushi at one of those restaurants that had the sushi going around on a train. I've never seen that. Never eaten there before.
Right.
Anyway, I had some sushi. Don't know if that was the catalyst for my problem, but that's what I think was the catalyst. Anyway, I had some sushi. We got on the plane, and I don't know, actually before I got on the plane, I started feeling sick. And as we flew across the country, I became more and more and more sick and was vomiting and vomiting and vomiting.
Oof.
And then by the time I remember when we transferred, because you had to do a layover. When we transferred in, I think it was Vancouver, it might have been Chicago. I remember laying on the ground, and JJ Gillett, who was a colleague of mine, kept checking on me, and she's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, I'm fine. And I wasn't fine. By the time we got to Toronto, I was like, I could barely walk. Got to my car, and of all things, my battery was dead in the terminal. So had to navigate that one. I don't know how that I got out of there, but regardless, I got home. I was living in Innisfil at that time. So somehow made it up the highway. I think I probably had to stop a bunch of times on the highway to deal with the sickness. And then spent the next 24 hours puking every 10 minutes. It was ridiculous. And to the point where my wife finally said, "Briss, like, we are going to the hospital." And so we went to the hospital, and I went to triage, and I was laying on the dirty triage floor because I couldn't sit up. And they're like, "Okay, you're going to have to go sit back in the lobby, and we'll wait, and we'll give you your number." And I remember saying, "I cannot go out there." And I just lay on the floor. I said, "I'm not moving. I cannot. I'm too ill."
Right.
And so Britt was flying off the handle, like, "We need to do something. Something's wrong." So they took me to another triage center or triage bay, and a doctor came in, or another nurse, and they did a bunch of blood work. And immediately, as soon as they got the blood work results, it was like code blue. And I went immediately back, and that's kind of where I lose memory. I remember seeing this amazing doctor, Dr. Hanrahan. She was beautiful. And I remember laying on my gurneyed bed, and I just said, as I was doped, I said, "Do great." Or something silly like that. And I was just so enamored that this lovely lady was going to take care of me. Anyway, it turned out that I had sepsis, and my entire insides were poisoned. And I think the doctor at one time said that I was probably 30 minutes from my liver and my kidneys shutting down, which would have been the end.
Yes.
So long story short, I was in intensive care for 3 weeks. They did a whole bunch of surgery, lots of tubes and things, getting rid of the illness and the poison that was inside of my body, and lots of doctors coming by to see the mystery kid because they didn't know what was wrong or why I got poisoned. And the one thing, I'll just share the story because it was like a flashbulb moment in my life that I will never forget. I remember one day, I have a pretty large zipper.
Okay.
From above my groin to above my belly button, where they went in and just like were exploring and taking things out. And I remember one night, and I was actually in the pediatrics ward at that stage. No idea. I was not a kid, but I was in the pediatrics ward. That's where they had a bed, and my incision split open, and I was bleeding out. Probably not anytime soon, but it was not pretty.
Not good.
And I remember my wife and my dad and a nurse, and my uncle was actually a teaching doctor at that hospital. So he came in, and they held me down 4 limbs, like almost like I was going to be drawn and quartered. And then another doctor came above me, and I will never forget the look he was my luck, I guess. He had a staple gun, like that you would get from Home Hardware, it looked like. And he proceeded to staple my incision back shut without any anesthetic or needles or racing while 4 people held my body. Anyway, that was just just a crazy moment that I'll never forget. But point is that it was a crazy 3 weeks in intensive care, a couple more weeks in the pediatrics ward while I was basically nurtured back to life and my organs were brought back to life. and it was touch and go.
Wow, I bet it was.
So I think, I'm sorry I get emotional,
It's
but
all good.
when I think of that time, it wasn't hard on me. Like when you're in it, I don't recall that being like super stressful, or I wasn't really worried. Like,
Yeah.
but when you look at the impact on the people around you,
Oh, the ripple effect.
it's scary.
It's very scary. Wow.
Anyway, take a drink of water.
Yeah, that's all good. Okay, so your description of being held down and being like full staple gun, just makes me actually want to throw up.
Yeah.
Just that idea. There was no anesthetic, no anything, super fun. Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, fire away.
When you were sick, like every 10 minutes you're throwing up. First of all, I can't imagine that you were eating. There couldn't have been much
No.
in your system at that point. And how did you know at that moment when you were in the triage area that like that was it? Was it that you literally
I don't think I knew, but I
didn't?
didn't have, after 24 hours or 36 hours of no food, and
Yes.
you're just drained, and I just
Right.
knew I couldn't get back on my feet,
Okay.
and I just felt I've never felt the way I
Yes.
felt. So I don't think I knew, hey, I'm gonna die. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know it was 30 minutes or 40, like whatever they
Whatever
said,
the
30
number
minutes,
was, yeah.
but it could have been 15. It could have been 2 hours, but
Right.
it was urgent. I didn't know it was urgent. I just knew that
Yes.
I was something was very wrong.
Yes.
And it was wrong enough that I couldn't go back out like I had a broken arm and
Right.
wait for 2 hours. Like that,
Okay.
I knew in my core that something was not right.
Was not right. Okay. And then they did surgery.
They did exploratory surgery.
Okay.
So they opened me up to find out what might be causing the poison.
Right.
And they took
Okay.
out my appendix
Okay. While
because
you're
they
in
thought my
there-
appendix was
Yep.
burst. It wasn't burst, so it was
Okay.
being caused by something else. But it was basically, they opened me up for nothing
Yeah.
other than to take some infection out. But I think the infection was probably drained through all the tubes that were hooked up to me
Okay.
after the fact. But it
Yes.
wasn't, they didn't need to open me up after all.
After
But
all. Okay.
in the moment,
You don't know what you're
you
dealing
don't know
with.
what you're dealing with. Let's get them open. Let's
Right. Figure this out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you were in like 3 weeks in ICU is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember much of those 3 weeks?
No.
I can only imagine they were just pumping you through full of,
No, I don't
like,
remember much.
toxins
I remember the odd person coming to visit.
yeah.
I remember the staple gun.
Yeah.
I remember the amazing nurses, and actually I was trying to reach out and find them. Not in ICU so much, but when I was in peds,
Yes.
the quality of care was fantastic. So I remember this lovely lady that took care of me, and I was like her son,
Yes.
even though I was 22 or 23,
Right.
but she took care of me like I was one of her own, and it was amazing. So I remember her, but I don't remember. There's another moment that I remember that I won't share, but it was cause for my wife to have concern about the future for our family.
Yes. I can only imagine. Yeah.
And when you sit in a bed for that long, but though I don't remember much, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay. It's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
I would think. Plus your body was trying to fix itself.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yes, with all the meds that you had. Okay. So that's all the medical questions I had. So you spent 3 weeks in ICU, then you go into pediatric, which is probably, yes, exactly where they only had a bed. And then you get sent home.
Mm-hmm.
And now what's your life like? Because it's not like they could say, don't do this one thing.
Yeah, I was basically
Right?
off. And part of this learning that we'll talk about is the realization that I had many years later of what great leaders are. And so I was not forced back. I had amazing executive leadership at Addie and my manager, Westy, that there was no urgency. They just said, you take care of you. What can we do to support you and Britt through this? And you let us know when you're ready. And when the doctors say you can come back, we'll have a staggered return. And I don't remember, honestly, how long I was off. It was months.
Yes.
Might have been 3, might have been 4, but it was months before I started staggering back to work. But
Amazing.
it was pretty quiet, few months,
Right.
lots of family to support, and it was just Britt and I at the time. We were planning a family. My brother, who was studying to be a paramedic or had just become a paramedic, was living with us, like Dupree.
Okay.
His nickname is still Dupes. So there was support in the house to help, but it was basically like a outpatient care.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah.
Okay. So first of all, sepsis is really the poisoning of the body.
Yeah.
That's a definition,
yeah.
I guess. So until last year, I'd never heard what sepsis is, but it seems to be far more common than I had originally thought, because I'd never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it just feels like it's one of those things that once you hear somebody's had sepsis, you're like, oh, and then there's another person. And it seems far more common than I think we actually talk about. So was there, beyond the physical recovery, was there any, emotional recovery or anything like that you needed to take care of?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I think maybe for my scarred family. But as I said, my experience has always been that it's been harder through the number of medical issues that I've had. It's been harder on those around you.
Yes.
They feel the stress. They feel the burden. They feel the roller coaster of emotions because you're just the patient. You're getting all the love and all the support, and half the time you're doped up and you're not even with it. And so I didn't find I'm sure there's scarring deep down and trauma deep down, but I am happy to talk about it. I've never felt like there's been a tax on my well-being, my mindfulness and my emotional well-being.
Yes.
But I know it took its toll on
for sure
my loved ones.
Yes, exactly. And so coming out of sepsis, you then go back to work. How has that experience changed you, changed your life?
Yeah, I think that was the moment that this pivotal moment was not the actual episode, but the reflection and the realization that I was close to not having the opportunity to pursue what life's opportunities are. And so I had months to chat with Britt and reflect on, hey, what's important? I almost lost everything.
Yes.
So what's this is a great time to think about, what do I want from life? Who do I want to be, so that I don't pass it by. Right. So it was a reflection more than anything. The pivotal moment was I had this time in this near death experience that allowed me to say, who do I want to be? Where do I want to spend my time? How would that show up in the day to day? Because it's one thing to have an ideal, and I was raised with great values. I had amazing parents that were engaged and present and gave back to the community and made time for us, my two brothers and I at home, and we had a loving family. And so I had great values all the time.
Yes. But
having great values and then putting those into practice I think is very different. And that is the experience I had with sepsis and coming out of sepsis was the moment that made me make conscious, purpose-filled choices to bring my values and what I always knew were my values, but to bring them actually to fruition and to put them into practice in my day-to-day.
Okay.
And so that was it seems cliche, but it's not when it's personal and when it affects you in your day-to-day. But there's lots of things in your life that are important. But I was newly married and I knew I wanted to be a present, engaged, supportive husband and partner. We were planning a family, albeit Britt was probably worried that we weren't going to be able to have boys after what was going on. But I knew that, like my dad, I wanted to be engaged. I wanted to be showing up for the moments. I wanted to coach them. I wanted to be home for homework. I wanted to have family dinners. I wanted to be there through the bedtimes that I knew were going to be challenging, through the different stages of a child's life. I wanted to be present. I didn't want to be a dad that was always prioritizing something else. And so that it gave me time to reflect on who I wanted to be as a dad, as Britt and I planned a family. As I said, I knew I wanted to give back. I saw my dad coach hockey for 44 years, his kids, but also everybody else's kids. And I knew that would be a way, through my passion for sport and through my passion for being around kids and relating to kids, that would be something I would love to do. And I also knew that I had ambitions with work, and I've always been driven, naturally driven. And I always said something. We had TLU at Addy.
Yes.
And we always say performance and potential, but there's no axis for drive.
Right.
And that's not taught. That's like something that's in your nature, not your nurture. And I've always been driven, and almost to my demise. Like, I compete at everything. I want to win a field day.
Yes.
I want to win when I play euchre with my parents or my my in-laws.
Yes.
I want to beat my kids now when we play mini sticks. right. And so that's just who I am. And so I also had ambitions with work.
Yes.
So it just gave me pause to reflect on what are the different things that I want to be, who are the different people I want to be, what do I want to get into these things, and what's really important.
Yes.
Because I think early in your career, everyone's just like, I got to work. I got to climb that corporate ladder. Totally. I got to be the best. I got to stay late and put in the hours and just sacrifice everything, to gain. And it just gave me reason to reflect and say, hey, I don't think it needs to be that way. Yes. I think we can make purposeful, conscious decisions in all aspects of our life to make sure that we're present, that we're engaged, that we're on.
Yes.
When we're working. And then we're on when we're parenting. And then we're on when we're coaching or being involved in our community or whatever. And just making sure that there's a good balance.
Yes.
Because I don't think life is about some trade-offs. And there always needs to be flexibility, right? Like, it's not about, I'm going to do less work so that I can be a better parent. Right. Or I'm going to stop coaching so that I can only work. It's not black and white. You just have to, I think it's just a conscious decision that, hey, there are some trade-offs here and there. And you do need to be flexible here and there. But if you make those decisions in the moment, cognizant of the other parts of your life that are going to that are going to be impacted, then you're able to, I think, find a much more, what's the word? I don't know, efficient way of operating across the pillars of your life, and across the things that are meaningful. And I'll give you a couple examples, because saying that is great, but then it's like, okay, what did you actually do, Jordie?
Yes.
And so, like, in the early stages, and as we started having a family, a couple of years after the sepsis, it was simple things. Yes, I made trade-offs at work. I've always been a guy who brings his lunch to work. I'm the Tupperware king, right? And yes, I bring eggs the odd time and tuna the odd time.
Awesome, great.
But I eat leftovers, and I don't go out for lunch. Maybe on a rare occasion, I'll saunter across the subway with our colleagues, but I'm not that guy. I decide to take the 42 seconds to go and heat my lunch up, bring it back to my desk, eat my lunch at my desk while I'm finishing up a project, and save that hour.
Right.
So that I could be home for our family dinner when my kids were young. So that's like one little example. You can make those purposeful choices. You don't have to go to the gym at lunch and take an hour for your workout and then 20 minutes to go get a sub and 10 minutes to shower. Right. Like, I just work through that. Or you come in a little early after you drop the kids at daycare and you come in for 7:30 instead of 8 or 8:30.
Right.
So there's just things like that. But it also, I think, drove, you said I operated with military execution or something earlier, but that, I think, drove how organized I am. Yes. I am a highly organized and structured operator in all facets of my life, not just as a professional at Addy, but I'm the same at home.
Okay.
Wake up in the morning, okay, we got to do teeth, we got to set the table, we got to make sure our bags are packed for hockey. Like, that's just how my brain works.
Okay, yes.
I am, and I think the need for me to find that balance that works for all the pillars in my life drove that. Because I could be hyper organized, hyper structured, prioritize with diligence at work and at home so that I can make time for everything. And so I think that's the pivot, or the moment that made me who I am in my professional and personal life, is it just gave me cause to make diligent, purposeful decisions across my 5 areas that were important to me, that allowed me to function with 100% in each of those areas.
Okay.
I'll give you another example because I didn't want to just say, hey, I make trade-offs at work. I do make trade-offs at work, but they're good trade-offs.
Yes.
Being really productive when I'm there, but also some trade-offs that allow me some time at home. But likewise at home, we hired a cleaning lady.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure that when I was home, I wasn't spending time vacuuming.
Right.
And that was a concession we had to make. We didn't have a lot of money coming in. So it was like, okay, we're going to do this, but we're going to not do that over here.
Correct.
Because the money's going over here. But that's important because it saves time and it allows us to be present versus go watch TV while daddy cleans the toilet. That's one example. Like when I coached, I was coaching 2 teams when the boys were young. And then it was like, I can't do that and hold a full-time job and so I knew that there needed to be flexibility. So I had to give up coaching 2 teams. And I'd be like, hey, I can make the 8 o'clock practice, but I can't make a 4 o'clock practice all the time.
Right.
So I gave up some of that. So there's trade-offs and purposeful trade-offs and purposeful decisions that can enable you to be really good at your job, present and driven and ambitious and doing all the things you can in your professional life, but also do the other things and pay attention to the other things that matter.
Yes.
And I think it's just finding the decisions that will enable that across that spectrum.
And speaking of work, you did make some concessions at work with maybe leaning into the values that you had, making choices not to take some roles.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love about Adidas and that you were afforded as well, Les, is it's a global organization and a huge investment in resources across markets. And the nice thing is that most markets were structured the same way. So there was merchandising functions everywhere. There's finance functions and marketing functions and sales functions. So the doors that you had to walk through with a global multinational, a leading brand, are endless. So the number of people and leaders that I had that asked me, are you mobile? Would you take a job in Portland? Could you move to Portland or Germany to take a role like this? Or New York? Like all the major hubs where Addy had offices were opportunities. Were they guaranteed jobs for me? No, but they were always through our performance evaluations, people were identified as potential future leaders elsewhere. And I had to be honest with myself and say, hey, family is too important to me. It's not that it's unimportant to others that are
correct.
But I wanted my kids' grandparents, who are hyper engaged in our life, to have grandkids to be involved with. And likewise, those people are important to me. So and our community is really important to us. So moving abroad, while it would bring really, really amazing life lessons for our kids and global exposure and exposure to new cultures and new languages and all that stuff, those are great things. But as we made the list and we talked about it with Britt and I, it wasn't as important.
Right.
So turning down some of those roles, some of those opportunities that, would have maybe put a little more money in my jeans. And would have brought some things to our family that not traveling wouldn't. But those weren't, those are choices that we made together and choices that allowed more important things to take place here with our family and with the people that were important to us.
Right.
So,
yes. And you have always been community driven. You were always like that at Adidas as well, right? It was about the people and understanding that business is only part of it. It's all about the people, and the more you can foster relationships with the people, the better your work environment is, and the more that the business, quite frankly, will thrive. And you've really lived that. And as a leader within the organization, you showcase that kind of every day. You didn't just say, here's my values and here's what I'm going to do. You actually lived it and you led it. And that's a big difference to many people who say, yeah, no, this is really important to me, and yet don't actually showcase it that way. But you did. And so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I think I come back to flexibility because there's lots of times that we did have to stay late, right? You're prepping for a pre-line with a major national retailer. And you're setting the showroom up, or you're getting the marketing materials ready, or there's a major meeting. Like you have to. And that's the flexibility I talk about, that I had to travel. in my sales role, in my digital role, in my ops role, and my merchandising functions, we had to travel.
Yes.
Whether it was Germany or Portland or Chicago or Pittsburgh, we were all over the map. But that is a trade-off.
Yes.
That then makes you, to me, feel more confident when you are in the office.
Yes.
Being more flexible with your time and flexing some of that time. So, yeah, there's lots of times, and I don't want to say, hey, I'm prioritizing my home life over my work.
No.
But it's definitely, you need to be cognizant of finding the balance that works for both, and flexing one to make the other work and flexing the other back to bring something. So it's a balance, but it's each thing that you're considering or each moment that comes up, a travel trip or a meeting, it's just making the conscious choice of how you're going to invest your time so that it'll have the least impact on the other areas of your life that matter most.
Right. One of the things you mentioned was when you were sick and you were in hospital, that you had some leaders that said, it's okay, Jord, we've got you. Come back whenever you're ready. How has those leaders and the impact that they had on you, positive impact, has that also impacted how you chose to lead?
Yeah, and it's funny you ask that, because it's only been in the last couple of years that I really reflected on the people that were behind the decisions.
Yes.
And by that I mean I took it for granted. 100% I took it for granted. I was hired by an amazing leader, Westy. I was treated, at that time I was pretty junior when the sepsis hit me. And the people that were pulling the purse strings, for lack of a better term, were very senior at Addy Canada. And I had a relationship with them, but I was the new kid, right? I was a young kid that really had no track record yet. And so there was definitely
there's a couple of rungs.
There was a couple of rungs up the ladder.
Yes.
And I took it for granted because I just thought that's what leaders did.
Yes.
Right. And I had so many great leaders, but looking back, I took it for granted because that's what I thought great leadership was. And I thought that's what leaders were all about. And you don't realize it. I didn't realize it for years until I had a bad leader.
Yes.
And then I looked back and said, oh, I need to reach out. And so I've actually reached out to some of those very senior leaders in the past year to say thank you. And I took you for granted, and it wasn't purposeful, but I now know that was a choice that you made to support little old Jordie, unproven newbie. And you did the right thing, even though it had an impact on the business, probably small because my salary was so tiny back then, but they did the right thing.
Yes.
And it did shape who I became as a leader, reinforced the values that I knew all along and that my pivotal moment validated. But it shaped how I treated people. And I wanted to make sure that I saw them not just for who walked through the door, but understand that they have stuff going on too. A sick parent, a sick kid, a traumatic experience that had just happened. And people forget, I think, and maybe label people as being snarly, or there's other words you can use that probably inappropriate for a podcast, but they don't ask the question, well, what might have happened today?
Yes.
That maybe the root cause here, and having a little more compassion and empathy for what's driving people. And so their treatment and how they managed my situation and supported my family through that experience. And then again, at a later experience, was just reinforced to me that's the type of leader that I wanted to be.
Yes.
I didn't want to just talk the talk, but I wanted to make sure I understood people. I wanted to hear and learn about their home life, because we spend more time with people at our office than we do with our family, sadly, in some cases. And I needed to understand what made them tick. I needed to understand where they may be having struggles. How could we support them? Where could we be flexible and make the right decision for the person, knowing that I would go through a wall. To use me, I would go through a wall for Adidas. After they did that little thing for little old Jordie when I was 23 years old, There was nothing that if that brand said, I need you to do this, there's a few things.
Within reason.
Within the confines of the law.
Yep.
But they were going to get that back, and they did. For 20 years, I poured my heart and soul into that. And so doing right by the people, by the person, because we're humans, is doing right for the business.
Yes.
And that's what I learned, and as I reflected on, that's what I learned about what I wanted to be, how I learned about who I wanted to be as a leader. And it's not just about making right decisions for people, but it's also about leading by example. Mm-hmm. And when a leader tells me I haven't used my full holiday time in 3 years or 10 years, that's not leadership. So I was always take your vacation time. I've never carried over a vacation. Oh, I did once. But one time in 20 years, I carried over vacation time. And so I think it's something that you need to lean into and to not just make decisions and understand your teammates and be compassionate and empathetic to who they are and find a way to support them through that. But it's also leading and walking the walk versus just talking like that. So I pride myself on, hey, I flex my home time to prioritize things at work when they're needed. Travel, important meetings, top to tops, etc. I am there all the time and I'll flex that. But I also flex my time, and you were working at an adjacent brand that I envied in the golf world for so long. Yeah. But I didn't. When I could be home for my kids and there wasn't something that was 5-alarm fire, I pushed pause and I left on time to make it home for dinner so we could sit around the table and have conversations that are meaningful and important. Right. So, and you can't do that. You can't allow, or your employees don't see that as permissible in truth if they don't see their leader doing that. And it's important for your teammates to feel they're supported, to have a family life, to be there for their kids, to show up when it matters, to go to the recital and not worry about the Excel spreadsheet that might have to get done later. Right. And so those leaders that you talked about were the catalyst for me to think about what do I want to do? How do I want to be? How do I want to lead? Because that's what great leaders do. Yeah, absolutely. So through this whole experience of sepsis and seeing the other side of it and really re-engaging with your values, you've learned a ton about yourself. Mm-hmm. But what have you learned about the broader community, like those around you as well? Through my sepsis?
Like through your pivotal moment.
Through my pivotal moment. It's a great question. I think the biggest thing is that people are there for you. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I would liken that experience to what I'm going through now. I'm in career transition, as you know, and people come out of the woodwork, and I think humans are innately good. Yes. Right? And even the people that you haven't talked to forever and come and support you. And whether that's when I had sepsis, and it was really not support for me, it was support for Britt. Right. Or when it's, hey, I'm going through a career transition. Yes. People come out of the woodwork. And regardless of whether you haven't talked to them in 10 years or 20 years or 3 weeks, people are innately good and they want to help. Right. And that's something that it's been humbling in both those experiences because you feel badly. I always feel bad, like I don't like handouts, but it also just reinforces to me that I want to make sure that I'm continuing to be there for people when they need help. Yes. And offering my support and making a phone call to say, I'm thinking about you, or like, so I think that's what I learned about the community is that regardless of the relationship you had and how deep and close you think it is, I keep a very close, small group of friends. But it wasn't just those people that supported me in either of these scenarios. It was my broader network that maybe hasn't reached out to me, but they had a great relationship with me, or they remember me from playing hockey, or they remember me because they worked on a team of mine, and they come out of the woodwork because people care. Right. And it's not everybody. You also get surprises on the other side, like, I really thought.
Kind of thought, but there's a few.
For the most part, people are there and want to help. Mm-hmm.
Well, and people want to help you. I mean, there's a reason that your network not only exists, but people do reach out to you because of who you are. And I'm a big believer in you get back what you put out in the world. And I think you have always been consistent, great leader, just an awesome human. And so it actually doesn't surprise me that lots of people do reach out to try and help as you go through the transition, whether it was now or sepsis or anything, any other pivotal moment, because people want to help good people. So
it's
that's
funny.
a testament to you.
Well, thank you. I was having lunch, and this does relate back to sepsis. I know we're talking about that, but sepsis really defined and helped build the foundation for who I am as a leader and the things I value in life and the decisions I make that bring that to practice every single day. And you asked a little bit about how does that show up at work and what does that look like in the day-to-day and how has that impacted my career trajectory, et cetera. It also impacts how I now interview. And I'll tell you a little story. I was interviewing with a company a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to say who. And a question came up in a second interview about how far is too far with balance and how far might I be pushed. Because I expressed in a first interview that family was important and I wanted to be there in the key moments. And that's the type of leader that I am. And I think it's important that leaders lead by example. And I answered it honestly, but I left and I said to Britt, might have shot myself in the foot, right? Maybe I shouldn't have been so honest. Maybe this is a reason for them not to hire me. And I was apprehensive and anxious about that. And then I had a lunch with Tom Wright, who you know, second time I'd met him, and wonderful man, if you know Tom, and wish I met him earlier in my life. But I shared that story with him because it was days later. And I just said, Tom, what do you think? How could I manage that differently? And he said something to me that it changed me even today. He said, you're the best. You are better at this job than anybody else, being you. And never apologize for having leadership values and capabilities and trying to find the balance across the different pillars of your life. Never apologize for that. It's better that they say no now and you know that wasn't the right fit than be apologetic and not honest.
Yes.
So I think it's just a learning for me. And as I continue my learning journey that it's okay to verbalize, even when you're kind of in the dire straits of needing a job, that this is my unique value proposition and this is what I stand for and this is how I balance. And it is about trade-offs and it is about priorities. And it doesn't mean I'm going to be less competent.
No, not at all.
Because I was at Addy, afforded 9 promotions in my 20 years. So it's not about one or the other.
No.
It's about finding a synergy and an ability through conscious decision-making to bring cohesion to all facets that are important to your life. And so that's one thing that I'm taking away from my journey today is I am who I am. Yeah. And if it's not this brand, then it will be this brand. And there are other brands that have the same values, who put stock in leadership and leaders who walk the walk and set a good example for teammates around them.
Yes. For those people that I mentor, and when they're going through a career journey, trying to figure out, generally it's younger people, and they always come to me with one question: how did you get to where you are? What can I do? How do I build my career? I always go back to, you have to find brands, companies, and leaders whose values align with yours. Because if they don't, it will be a very short stay on one or the other part, right? And so your answer to the question of how far is too far, I think it's great that you stand up for what you believe in, whether it's them asking you a business question or on the balance. And tells you a lot also about the company and what they value.
Totally.
Right? If it's about time sitting at my desk, or is it about what I bring to the company, that's far more important, I think. So my last question for you is this: what would be the words of wisdom that you would have for our audience?
There is a sign that hung above our dining room table at home. I might have been in the living room. We moved a couple of times, but it said, "Be yourself." And
Yes.
I know I actually spoke about this a little bit in at Addie in a town hall, but I think I would change that to be unapologetically yourself,
Yes.
and stand up and don't be afraid to be honest, because you're just fooling yourself. And I'm still learning that. I'm learning that through my journey now. When you're in tough circumstances, it may be harder. And that's why I second guess myself, but I will never do that again. And I think it's just really important to know who you are, know your values, know and reflect on what matters most, and then make decisions consciously to be the you that you reflected on.
Yes.
Be unapologetically yourself, and great things are going to happen, and you're going to surround yourself with great opportunities and great people. And I think you're going to get more out of life. I certainly have.
That's amazing. Well, from your sepsis journey, first of all, we're very glad that you're here.
Yeah, me too.
That was a little bit too close for comfort, to say the least. But super grateful that you're here and that you shared your journey on this podcast. And I am forever grateful for your friendship and for just learning from you. And it was a pleasure working with you. And I had no idea about your sepsis journey because, of course, that was before I joined Adidas. But I have watched you be the leader that you say you were going to be, and you actually are. And you live it, and you exemplify your values. And so for everybody who is within your sphere, they're fortunate for it. And we're ever so grateful that you're still here. So thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you, Les, and thank you for having me on your podcast. This is my first one, and I was a little nervous, but hopefully it delivers.
You did great. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for joining me today. Jordie's story is quite scary as it shows how close he came to not being here. But he has used that pivotal moment to help him make decisions in his life that are grounded in his values. It sounds so easy to do, but in reality, it can be challenging. But Jordie, he is living proof that with intention, it can be done, and your life can be better for it. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone you care about. And be sure to subscribe so you can continue to hear more pivotal stories involving one question, one turning point, one powerful story. I'll see you next week with another guest on the Leslie Hawkins podcast.